Hello, my name is Jefferson Howe. I'm a Principal Solutions Engineer for mParticle, and I'm here to showcase to you our Shopify integration with mParticle. The integration with mParticle and Shopify is done through a pre-built connector that mParticle has built. This connector allows basically mParticle to treat Shopify as a feed and have the feed be able to send out different data points or events that we are collecting from Shopify. When I mean events or data points that we're sending, basically this allows Shopify to send supported events to mParticle. Such supported events are the information like checkout, customer, draft order, fulfillment, and order Shopify events, and basically their own respective topics. The great thing with this integration is basically any user doesn't need to write a single line of code to make this integration possible. Using the pre-built connector that mParticle provides is purely driven through a wizard-driven approach, and basically from there you'll be able to have Shopify send data to mParticle. The great thing also with this connector is that this connector is already generally available, and if you want to understand more about this connector, you can go to our documentation guide, which is docs.mparticle.com/integration, and search for Shopify. The integration unlocks different use cases. When I mean use cases, these are use cases like allowing us to unify Shopify data with in-store and other channel information such that you can get a 360-degree view of your customers. We understand that Shopify could be your e-commerce store, but you might have a website and also other channels wherein you're collecting data about your customers. So using mParticle, you're able to connect and stitch all the different events coming from different channels such that you can provide a 360-degree view. As part of our capability, we're able to capture all the events and data points from Shopify and the different channels that you have. And from there, we can use that information to build audiences, and that will allow you to engage and retarget your users using different pre-built integration that we have already available to our marketing automation partners. Such marketing automation partners could be Braze, Iterable, Airship, and so forth. Aside from that, if you have your e-commerce store or website integrated with a customer service platform like Zendesk, we can empower Zendesk customer service agents with contextual information. Given that we're capturing events from Shopify, stitching them to the single user profile or customer profile that mParticle provides, we can forward all those events and orchestrate that to Zendesk, such that Zendesk will always know what your actual customers are doing within the website or within Shopify. And lastly, if you want to have the ability to analyze all the historical data and transactional data that your customers have done within Shopify, you can actually configure mParticle to orchestrate the same data points that we're already capturing to your existing data warehouse solutions, whether it's Amazon Redshift, Google Cloud, or Snowflake. This allows you to basically create that historical viewpoint of all your customers, and basically from there analyze their behavioral patterns such that you can feed that back to us, such that we can use that information from a retargeting or targeting perspective. So how to set it up? I'm going to show it to you now using my mParticle instance. So right now I'm already logged in with my mParticle instance. So what I can do is basically I can click this get started. Then from there I can actually select information, right? But given that this is a Shopify connector, as you can see, it's not listed here. So what we're gonna do is basically go to directory, then basically search for Shopify. Once you're able to search for Shopify, what you can do is click the setup button here. Then it will take you to a wizard-driven approach. As you can see here in this dialog box, we're being asked what type of integration type do we want to configure for Shopify. We'll select this input feed by ticking this one and click configure. Once we have click configure, you just need to provide a configuration name. Let's make this as Shopify test. Make sure the feed status is always toggled to active. And for environment, given this is a test playground, let's go with dev. Click save and open in connections. Once you have click save, automatically mParticle will generate a webhook URL. Copy this value. Once you have copied that value, go to mParticle into your Shopify store. To configure Shopify to send data to mParticle, you go to your admin console of your Shopify, click notifications. Once this page has loaded up, scroll down to the lowest part. As you can see, there should be a webhook section. Then what you can do is start creating that webhook that will allow us to send Shopify data into mParticle. As I said earlier, the mParticle and Shopify connector only supports certain events. So to understand those different events that mParticle supports, you can actually go to our documentation or integration website, which is docs.mparticle.com/integration, then search for Shopify. Once you have searched for Shopify, click Shopify. As you can see, if you scroll down, these are all the events that this connector supports. For this example, we're just gonna play around the customer update information or topic. So going back to Shopify, I'll create a webhook. I'll select customer update. Format should always be JSON. Paste the value of the webhook that was created by mParticle. Then for webhook API version, as part of our documentation guide, select 2020-10. Click Save. Once you have clicked Save, a notification will say webhook saved successfully. If you scroll down, you can see customer update is already there. And if you want to see that in live action, what we can do is basically go back to our Shopify mParticle instance. Yep. Then go back to live stream. Then basically we can go back to Shopify, and if you scroll to the right, you can click Send Test Notification. Once clicking Send Test Notification, automatically mParticle should be able to receive a data point, which is the customer update data point. If you want to understand more about that data point, you can actually click the View Event, and it will show you the dump of all the information about that event. So given that now you have configured one of the webhooks that allows you to send Shopify information to mParticle, what you need to do next is basically add additional topics that you want to have Shopify to send to mParticle. Good example will be having checkout creation, checkout update, order creation, order deletion, and so forth. You need to do that step, do this in multiple repetitions, but once you have done that, basically that's a set and forget. You don't need to set up this webhook ever again. Another thing that I want to showcase as part of this tutorial is basically what if we want to capture other events outside the supported events of the pre-built connector that mParticle and Shopify provides. How can we do that? So to do that, basically what we can do is go back to mParticle, then basically going to setup, click inputs, click web, and here what we can do is issue some keys. This will allow us to generate a key that we can use for the mParticle Web SDK. The mParticle Web SDK is a JavaScript SDK that you can embed in any of your web apps. So to understand more about that Web SDK, you can go to our documentation site again, docs.mparticle.com, click developers. Then once you have gone to this website, go to Quick Start Web. Then from here, you can see a snippet of the JavaScript SDK that mParticle provides. What you need to do now is copy this JavaScript and basically paste it in or embed it in your Shopify store. So to do that, what you need to do is going back to Shopify, go to your online store. Basically, once you go to the online store, you'll be shown with the themes page. Click the customize button of your themes page. Once this has loaded, you can see the theme. Click the triple dots up on the left-hand corner. Once you have done that, click Edit Code. Automatically, this will allow you to access the Shopify Liquid UI editor. Shopify provides Liquid pages, wherein these are purely JavaScript or HTML-driven pages that allows you to add additional logic to your Shopify store. As you can see here, every page in Shopify has a theme.liquid. And what you want to do is, within this theme.liquid, copy the code that's posted in our JavaScript Web SDK or in the blog, and basically inject that here. Once you have injected the script, what's important is this part, and you need to paste the API key that we generated from the inputs tab, inputs page. Once you have pasted that, click save. The next step, what I'm gonna do now is basically send the events that you want to capture outside from the events that are being captured by the pre-built connector. A good example of an event that's not captured by the pre-built connector is product views and add to cart. So same thing with using the blog posts I provided. Basically, you just need to copy the snippets of code that I have generated, and from there you can customize that to capture several events. This event is capturing product views. As you can see here, it's creating the product, the price that's currently available in the web page, in the Shopify web elements, and from there, sending that information directly to mParticle using this event called mParticle.ecommerce.log product action. So this allows you to capture e-commerce events, which will capture any product that has been viewed by your customer. We are also able to capture page views event if you want to capture page views. One last example that I provided in the blog is if you want to capture add to cart events. Same thing as above, the only difference is basically in your JavaScript that you're injecting, you're just gonna call the e-commerce product action add to cart event. Then from there, this will generate a product add to cart product event. So to showcase that in real time, what we can do is basically go to one of my workspaces, which is already, give me a second, I'll just put it out. So what you can do is basically, once you have done that, you can now try to view those information in live stream. So what I'm doing now is logging in to my mParticle instance. Once I'm able to log in, I'll go back to a different workspace, which has already have that configured, and I'm gonna go to live stream. Yep. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put this on the half left. Then I'm gonna put the Shopify on the half right. So here, I'm gonna access the Shopify store, but let me clear this one as well first, such that we start from a clean slate. Yep. I'll enter the Shopify store, and automatically once I enter this one, this should now generate events, and those events will be sent to mParticle using the Web SDK. As you can see here, if I want to try to access a sneaker, this will go to certain products that are part of that category. If I click this product, which is a sneaker product, this should now trigger certain additional events. Such events should be the e-commerce event, which I mentioned earlier, wherein this is a product view event. And if I decide to add this item to the cart, this will generate an add to cart event as well. Let's say I decided to add more items to my cart. So what I can do, go back to catalog, then maybe I want to add a shirt as well as part of the process. Same thing, I'm gonna add this product, the shirt product, then that would generate add to cart event and send that to mParticle. Once I'm done finishing adding items to my cart, what I can do now is do that checkout process. By going here, let's say I want to remove this because I mistakenly added 2 items in my cart, then I decide to go to checkout. So once I click checkout, this will allow my Shopify store to actually ask me to sign up for some basic information, such that Shopify or the e-commerce store will know who's the user or who's the customer. So here I'm gonna provide some additional information. Shopify 500 at mailinator.com. Shopify 500. Then I'll put the address as 80 Pacific Highway, North Sydney, Australia. If I click this continue to shipping, this will generate a customer create event that's delivered to mParticle using the pre-built connector. Yep, as you can see, it generated that event using the pre-built connector. And if we actually inspect the payload, you should see it is a customer create event. And basically this is sending the information I've just pasted earlier, or I typed in earlier. Shopify first name, 500 last name, right? Now let's finish this checkout process by basically selecting the shipping method, which I'm gonna go with free. Then lastly, enter a card number. The great thing with Shopify's store is that they allow you to use a dummy credit card to test your checkout process. So to do that, I'm just gonna put card number 1, which is the successful card number for any purchase. I'm gonna put a future dated date for expiration date and security code 111. Once I'm done with that one, click pay now. So with this process, as you can see, we're able to complete the checkout process, wherein it will generate the checkout event that's captured by Shopify and sent to mParticle. Part of the blog that I'm going to show is basically there's an optional step wherein you can actually link anonymous users with known users using mParticle's alias function. This is optional, fully optional, meaning that you don't need to do this, but basically given that Shopify is creating the user using the pre-built connector, which is sent to mParticle using a feed-based integration, basically that creates a separate mParticle ID profile, while the Web SDK generates a separate mParticle ID profile. So using the alias function that mParticle provides, you're able to stitch anonymous users to known users. So the good example here would be if I try to understand who was the user who was anonymous and known, I can click the source user activity. And this will allow me to capture the anonymous profile. As you can see in this profile, there's no customer ID or email captured. There's no even user attributes captured because the user was still a guest user, right? Once the user has decided to register, sign up for his or her personal information, that's the time Shopify triggers that create customer event, right? And from there, we're able to use that information and link that to a known user profile. So if I click this link, this will now showcase the user's information that's known. As you can see, the email is known. And if we actually want to understand further, the attributes here are basically the attributes that Shopify has captured. And from here, you can see we're able to link the anonymous user, which is this one, to the known user. To set that up in Shopify, basically the additional step, again, the optional step, what you can do is basically go to your Shopify admin console, go search for checkout, and it should give you checkout settings. Once you're in this checkout settings page, scroll down, you should see a section called other processing. There's an additional script section, copy and paste the code I provided, and from there you'll be able to call that alias function as an extra step that allows you to stitch anonymous users to known users. So with that concludes my integration with Shopify and using mParticle's pre-built connector such that it allows you to capture and send events generated by Shopify, done through the connector and outside the connector. And from there, you're able to build a unified view of your customers that you can use for segmentation and that can deliver retargeting and targeting approaches using your marketing automation platform. I hope you find this session valuable. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next blogs that I'll be creating out. Thank you.